to reparations debate number two. Now, the last conversation, it got a lot of traction, literally viral for me. When you talk about 300 viewers on a live feed, and the new vertical feed is working out. So I like to thank my new Instagram, Facebook, and more importantly, YouTube subscribers for tapping in. And like I said, so chime in. We're talking about reparations, and there's no wrong answer. We're having a conversation, a public conversation, because these are things that we need to conversate if we're going to move on as a perfect union. When I say a perfect union, this nation, the original plan, the Constitution, not what they got going on right now. So in the comments, somebody commented, and I appreciate your comments, when you have a reparations conversation out the gate at the top, that there should be, in terms of a breakdown on who should receive it. And for now, any descendant of the transatlantic slave is pretty much a recipient at this point. And it's not hard to find. Every American here, every Black American has a birth certificate. If your grandparents are from the South, like most of our grandparents are from the South, migrated out of the South to the North, to Chicago's, to New York's, to Michigan's, and all of that stuff, it's like we all migrated from the South. And if you were to do Ancestry.com, or if you were to do anything that was, in search of your family, it's going to go back to transatlantic slave. And I'm almost 100% certain on that. And we know what time it is, and this is what we're doing. So we got to understand that we're working against some powers. We got to understand we're working against some powers. We got to understand that, they got an algorithm, they tone down conversations. And a lot of times they tone our conversations down because somehow that they have fear that we're going to do something or rise up against them as a people. And that's not true. That's not factual. And when I say that's not true, that's not factual, what we're going to do is basically join America and make America that perfect union in which it is. Now, somebody said that they don't have the money. When you say that they don't have the money, that's a lie, okay? We have enough money to give everybody in the United States reparations, not just Blacks or the transatlantic slave descendants. I'm talking about everybody in general. Because if you look at the numbers, actually in the country, it's only 331.9 million people in the United States of America. I'm going to say that again. 331.9 million Americans in the United States of America. Think about that. And they have a bill in Congress to send 95 billion to foreign nations. Aid to Ukraine, aid to Israel, and aid to Taiwan. That's enough money. $500 million will actually take care of every American citizen. Think about that. $500 million will put $1 million in every American's bank account. And I'm not just talking about Black people. I'm talking about all Americans who are born in this country, naturalized in this country, got American citizens. Think about that. So when they say that there's no money there, that's a lie. The California State Lotto is in a sum of $800 million in one and $650 million in the other. And in the state of California, there's only 39.4 million people in the state of California. For just a fraction of that, just think about it. For just a fraction of that, that's enough money to basically put $1 million in everybody's bank account in the state of California. And I'm not talking about race. I'm not talking about, just for the Blacks. I'm talking about for everybody, because we are constitutionalists. We study the Constitution, and based on the Constitution, until we become a perfect union, America is going to continue to be under the leadership of democracy. And we see this country dealing with that. You got one presidential candidate that's getting older in his years, that's starting to lose a little bit. And then you got another one, bonehead Trump, on the other side, talking about it's going to be a bloodbath if they don't win. So we really got to talk about it. But I'm going to stick to the script in terms of reparations. Now, The reparations conversation. There's HR 40, which is legislation, SB 40, which was introduced by Sheila Jackson Lee and Cory Booker. It's actually on the books. And in the state of California, there's AB, I think it's 2131. And it was actually introduced and passed the state of California, but somehow all of a sudden on the state website, it says it was just introduced. So we have to come together as a people and not as Republicans, not as Democrats, not as, a divided country. The only way that this country becomes the country that it should be is if we were to come together. Just like I aforementioned, we have enough money in this country to give every American citizen, $1 million. And like I said, they're sending money overseas. They're doing all types of, aid and all of this. But only way that these things can continue to happen and we cannot come together as a people if we continue to support their democracy. When I say their democracy, democracy is on the ballot. And in 2024 of Super Tuesday, November 5th, we got something to think about. We need to vote against democracy. And I'm not saying vote against Republicans or Democrats. We need to understand that there's a difference between the Pledge of Allegiance and the American Creed. The Pledge of Allegiance says, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's the Pledge of Allegiance. One nation under God. How can we become one nation when you have Republicans and Democrats warring against each other? How can you have one nation when we already fought a civil war? It was the Union trying to be one nation against the Democratic, Dixiecratic South that was trying to actually, preserve slavery. Okay, and that's what the image is up top. So it's like we as a people, especially the Black community or the African-American community, the Negro community, whatever you want to call it, we're the last of the Mohegans, meaning we have not come together to champion ourselves like all the other races, like the Caucasian white race, like the Asian race, the Latinos. We are the only ones that have not championed ourselves because we have allowed democracy to continue to have a stronghold on us, and time's up. Us too, we have to move on because what did Einstein say? Is doing the same thing over and expecting a different outcome is what they call insanity. So, reparations, they don't have the money. Let me just say this. Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan, they're basically still debating, and they have some legislation that the House and the Senate have to vote on to basically guarantee $95.5 billion to help foreign nations. What about America? What about this country? Think about it. There's only 7.8 billion people worldwide. That's more than enough money to basically fund the world and give $1 million or put $1 million in the bank account of every human being globally. Think about that. 7.8 billion people worldwide, and we're talking about sending $95 billion, this country, to a foreign nation that's at war, to Israel, Taiwan, and Ukraine. Think about that. Look at the map. Somebody told me a long time ago, and it was an economic strategist, and he said, when you get to your position in life, just follow the money. Start talking about the money, and it would make sense because money don't have no color because it's green or blue, like we got now, the blue faces. But follow the money. Let's talk about the economics. Let's talk about the numbers. Just think about it. 7.8 billion people worldwide, and the Biden administration want to vote on legislation that's going to send $95.5 billion to Israel, which is to war and genocide and kill, people of color, to Ukraine, who's going to lose the war to Russia, and to Taiwan. That is crazy. And the only reason that this happens is because we continue as a people and as a nation continue to support democracy. America is not a democracy. America is a republic, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God. And republic does not mean republican. A republic means supreme power. So if we are a republic, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, which means supreme power, therefore the Constitution is the documentation for us to practice those powers and be supreme because we, the people. Think about it. It's not, a theory anymore. We have broke the code and understand what is called a theorem, a proven fact. And we know without a shadow of a doubt, the only way we will continue to be a divided country is if we continue to support democracy. Just say, for instance, if we decided as a people, let me give you a hypothetical. If we decided as a people to support legislation that's going to end poverty, support legislation that's going to end racism, support legislation that's going to end the division in this country, and it comes with compensation with just a minimum of $1 million in everybody's bank account. And when I say everybody's bank account, a blood-born American citizen, black, white, Latino, or indifferent, because we have enough money to do so, because we're looking to send $95.5 billion to foreign nations that's at war, and it's only 7.8 billion people in the world. So we got enough money to fund the world. And I'm going to say this again. America has enough money to print up to fund the world, but we are basically being tricked, hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, influenced, and tricked by the grand trickster, and that's the devil. Okay, the devil himself. Yes, there's a God and there's a devil. The devil is the catalyst of all of this. The devil is the one that got you, living and influencing you and arguing with your neighbor, and suicides and drugs and crack and prisons and all of these negative things. It is not of God. And the only way we can stop it if we understand what that is and expose the devil, shine the light on the devil, and I guarantee you the devil will flee. But we got to talk about it. The devil is not a person or human being. He's a master influencer that would have people in high places selling their souls to do anything to make sure that there's the haves and the have-nots. And I'm going to say this again. There's only 7.8 billion people in the world, and we are trying to send $95.5 billion to foreign war-torn nations that's committing genocide on God's people. Think about that. So this is why you have the Uncommitted Coalition. Okay, this is why you have the Jesus Christ Coalition. I'm a campaign strategist for that team. This is why you have black men and conservative men and Latinos moving over to the Republican side, because democracy is the catalyst. Let's just talk about words, how vital words are. Think about it, how vital words are. The word crat or crassy, the suffix, crat or crassy. Crat means to rule, crassy means to rule by. Think about that. Hang in there with me. Demo, the word demo. I'm from California. Every time I bring up demo in front of my Latino brothers and sisters, they say, oh, demonio. So if crat or crassy mean to rule or rule by, demo means demonio, which is demon, diablo, or devil. That means democrats, devilcrats, and democracy is the catalyst. I'm going to give you guys a homework assignment. Go ahead and look up the American Creed. And it was written by a former slave master, and he put a democracy within the republic after the Civil War. Democracy within the republic after the Civil War. Think about that. How can you have democracy within the republic when democracy lost to the Union or lost to the republic? Think about that. Think about that. And when they talk about the numbers, 7.8 billion people worldwide, and we're trying to send $95.5 billion to foreign war-torn nations, Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan. That $95 billion needs to be right here and disseminated amongst the American people, the taxpayers, okay? Because this nation cannot be a great nation if we're divided. A house divided cannot, shall not, and will not stand. That's biblical, so you can find that in the book of Matthew. So we have to really understand that we cannot continue to support American democracy because American democracy is ruled by the devil and its influences. Why is it that only 1% of the people have all the money? 1%. Just 1%. What about the top tier, you know what I'm saying, the top 20%? What about the middle 40, 60%? And what about the bottom? Think about that. So you telling me if hypothetically or metaphorically, if America was a tree and the tree grows, everybody grows. It's not top down, it's bottom up. So if you at the base of the tree and you are free to do what you choose to do, abide by the laws and rules and regulations, and there's no entity out there trying to stop and block you, and put you in a catch-22 situation. So you got to make a prison, what they call a penitentiary decision. In 5 or 10 years, you're going to be much better than you were before. Think about that. You will be much better than you were before. Think about it. But the top is going to continue to be the top, but somehow the top want to keep the bottom as the have-nots because the top needs the bottom to exist because they need something to stand on. They need something to stand on. So what I'm saying is, as a people, it's time for us to really have these conversations. And reparations is just not for Black Americans. Okay. Now, the original plan obviously was, and still is today. We'll talk about that. But we're talking about financing. We're talking about where are they going to get the money from? And people have commented on the reparations debate #1, and this is where I'm getting, some of the content from, because somebody asked me, or not asked me, put in the comments that we need to basically out the gate talk about, what group would get reparations. And I'm saying the transatlantic slave descendants. And since we want to send $95.5 billion to foreign nations, and it's only 7.8 billion people worldwide, only 331 million in America, we got enough money to basically give reparations to every American citizen. Now, you want to let all the migrants and stuff in, that's fine. But if you break off the American citizens, we can actually have legalized immigration, and the migrants that come in, they can actually work, as workers like the slaves did. But in 7 years, they could become American citizens, because if you go to foreign nations or the communist countries, China and Japan and Taiwan and, these socialist nations, it is so clean. It is so beautiful. It is so much hospitality. We could have that here in these United States, but we cannot have people living in slums. We cannot have a Skid Row. We cannot have a dope game with the cartels and immigration. In California right now, one of its beautiful, lustrous cities, the city of Irvine, has always made the top 10 safest places. Since this year alone, there have been upwards of 40 home robberies in Irvine. And they're saying that these are gangs and drug cartels that are being flown in from foreign countries, from Venezuela. They target these places. They know the technology. They know how to cover the cameras, and they are breaking into people's houses in Irvine, which is one of the safest cities in America. Look it up. It's always in the top 10. But it's not going to make the top 10 now because home robberies are up. When I say up 400+%, because things like that just don't happen. But if we were a nation, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all, then we can have policies put in place where zero tolerance for crime. See, crime only happens when people are in need of something. Crime only happens when people are desperate. Think about this. Nobody will rob you, steal your food, or steal your car if they got $1 million in their bank account. And we'll have these conversations moving forward. So we're going to have open discussions, town hall meetings. We're going to be able to tap in and communicate. But I'm saying is it's time to have an adult conversation on how America become this perfect union. Because like I said, I studied the Constitution. I'm what they call a constitutionalist. And to a perfect union has to come together. Only way we could become a union if we end the division. We cannot be divided, because a house divided can't stand. I know I'm not the only American citizen that was appalled of the sitting president at the State of the Union address. He talked about his predecessor We mention this name so many times, but what about the state of the Union, state of America? So it's clear that we're not unified. It's clear that they want to keep people in chains and behind bars. It's clear that they want all of these negative influential things to continue to create poverty, to continue to create crime, to continue to create a pipeline of prison program, a continuance to continue slavery. And that's real talk, because slavery never ended. Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, but they put it, after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, they put what they call the slavery clause. It says the 13th Amendment reads neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, comma, unless criminalized. So look at the criminal justice department. Look at how the criminal system, look at how we got the prosecutors, how we got the public pretenders, how we got the district attorney, how we got the attorney general. These are all individuals that are making money off of what we call legalized slavery. And that's what it is. And it's crazy that our vice president was the top cop in California as the attorney general. It's crazy. So think about that. Understand that. And it is crazy that the sitting president, Joseph Robinette Biden, wrote the 94 crime bill. So you guys hit that notification, because we're going to do a watch party, and we're going to watch his 1993 Senate speech on the 94 crime bill. And I'm going to let you know, you're going to have to put your adult underwear on, because he said, just as Joseph Biden, he didn't have a speech impediment back then. So it's old age. It's not a speech impediment. He said, before they kill me, before they kill you, challenge my sons, my daughters, rape your daughter, rape your wife, kill your spouse, they're going to be in jail. And these are not ordinary humans. These are super predators. And he threw up the sign. And that was a code word to basically lock up the blacks. And this is why we have to have this conversation. And this is why the black race is seeking a divorce from the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party has not been good to us. So hit those notifications, because I'm going to be having a conversation on the Voting Rights Act. And a lot of people, especially older people, sit back and say, you got to go in there and vote because, our ancestors died to vote. No, they died to vote because at the end of the Civil War, blacks were conservative. Blacks were growing financially. Blacks, the nuclear family, God, man, woman, and child was growing. Out of the Great Depression, we were growing, and we were literally conservative. But after the assassination of Kennedy, after the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and the Vice President, Lyndon B. Johnson, the Southerner racist from the state of Texas, became the president of the United States. And he had a bright ideal in collusion or in cahoots with Margaret Sanger, who's Planned Parenthood, basically said, call the nigger leaders, which included Dr. King. I'm going to give the blacks everything they wanted. They took that pen, and he signed the Civil Rights Acts. He signed, terms of the busing, integration, the schools. He basically did the integration thing, signed the Voting Rights Acts with only one contingency, that blacks vote for the Democratic Party. This is why Joseph Biden can sit back and say, if you, are black and still confused about who you vote for, you're not black, because they believe that they own us. And if you look at the history of the black race in these United States, it's the Democratic, Dixiecratic South that's been owning blacks in our whole history and our whole legacy. This is why we're seeking a divorce that comes with compensation, and that compensation could be called alimony or reparations. And we're willing to share the wealth, because we know without a shadow of a doubt, if the black community gets its act together, this is why my platform is a Better Black America TV. And black stands for Black, Latin, Asian, Caucasian, kinfolk, meaning we're all one race under God, but you are with us to help us in racism so we could become a more perfect union, like the Constitution says. Okay, so Democrat, I need y'all to get this and understand this. Share, like, subscribe, but really understand The word crat or crassy is to rule or rule by. The word demo means demonio in Spanish and Portuguese, and is demon, diablo, or devil. So democracy is the catalyst because of the American Creed speaks and says a democracy within the republic. So democracy must go. So this is why we're not supporting democracy, which is a two-tier government, because a house divided cannot stand. We're not running to the Republican Party because just like the last election when they asked Trump about the Proud Boys and he said, stand by and stand back, boys. Black Americans was like, wow, we was on our way. We was going to support you, bro. But here you go with that rhetoric again. And then just recently in Ohio, he said if he don't win, it's going to be a bloodbath. So message to Donald Trump. And like I said, somebody get this to the Trumpster. Somebody get this to Donald Trump. You got to understand, I'm speaking to Donald Trump. You can't have a phone call conversation or a conversation you would have with your friend in public forum. Because I know a lot of people, a lot of us say things behind closed doors that we would not say publicly. He needs to understand that. That's one thing he needs to understand. And I'm going to have a conversation about that because he needs to stop with the rhetoric because, you know, when you say a bloodbath, I believe it's political, but if you give them those talking points, you're basically, you know, throwing a dagger or throwing a shot at your opposition, which is the Democrats, and that's what they call democracy, because democracy needs somebody to fight. Democracy needs somebody to throw stones at. Democracy needs somebody to condemn, because if they didn't throw stones or had nobody to condemn, then we will realize that it's them. You see, you hear that? If they don't have those, if they can't throw stones, if they can't destroy your character or condemn you, then we have to look at democracy as a whole, and it's literally them. It is clear as day, just like Scooby-Doo. Every episode of Scooby-Doo, it was no monster. It was like, oh no, it's Mr. Brown. Oh no, it's the doctor. Oh no, it's this person, it's that person. It was never a monster. So we are living in a situation where we got to realize that no matter what happens, how it happens, oh no, it's democracy. Yes, American democracy is on the ballot. And this is why you have so many uncommitted voters. This is why the independent coalition is growing. This is why the Jesus Christ Writing Coalition is growing every day, because those uncommitted voters and those independent voters are going to join us and write in Jesus Christ as our presidential candidate, as a third party option, which is not going to win. But just think about on election day, how we will be liberated and we will show democracy that we are not supporting democracy. Because if you didn't understand, Dr. King, he had a dream, but that wasn't his plan. He was in Washington and looked the documentation up, because the phenomenon that Willie Lynch was afraid of is the internet. The information superhighway. Go ahead and put in your phone or whatever device you on, your computer, your PC, whatever you're doing right now, and put in Poor People's Party. It was a Poor People's Party campaign that Dr. King had rallied and brought to the state of Washington to introduce a third party option. Okay, and all we're doing is repeating history, because we know that Dr. King, after his assassination, delivered us into a burning house. And that's the house of democracy. So go ahead and do your due diligence to start, feeding that mind, because the mind is a terrible thing to waste. And God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. But if you look up the Poor People's Party, Dr. King's mission at that event on the March on Washington was to start the Poor People's Party campaign. He had a handwritten 9-minute speech to basically introduce a third party option. But since he was such a threat to the FBI, since, they signed off on him to be surveillance, and they basically were, agents was in the crowd, doing this and phone calls, nigger, you better not do that speech and all of that stuff. And he got scared and he got shook. And one of his friends shouted out to him and said, oh my goodness, he's getting scared. Tell him about the dream. And here we go. I have a dream that one day black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, that dream became a nightmare, because that wasn't the plan. Just imagine, or what if Dr. King was able to establish the Poor People's Party? Think about that. What if he was able to establish the Poor People's Party and was not assassinated? Where would we be today? We wouldn't be sitting right here talking about reparations, because do your due diligence while you're looking up the Poor People's Party. Look at some of those videos. And he said, when we go to Washington, we're going to get our check. And that check was reparations. Think about it, because he knew he got played. When Lyndon B. Johnson gave Martin Luther King that pen and he put it in his pocket, game was over, because he sat in a room with Margaret Sanger, who's a eugenist, and helped her with Planned Parenthood. And he was awarded the first award that Planned Parenthood ever given out, and it was under Dr. King. Look it up. The Planned Parenthood Award was Dr. King. Did not know that abortion would be the leading cause and death of black babies in modern history, next to murder and natural causes of death. So we got played. So we got to look at history and not be insane, and cannot continue to do the same thing. Because when I speak to a lot of older people and they sit back, oh, they was doing that in the 60s. And I sit back and say, wow, so help us, because we don't want to be in our latter years saying, oh, they did that in the 2000s. No, we want to break the code, break the cycle. That third party option is a play in this election. The uncommitted people in Michigan has already started. There has been an independent rise, not an American independent. I'm talking about a no party preference independents that who don't get the vote in the primaries. That's a large thing. And major Democrats and all black Democrats are on board and are willing to have the open conversations for the Jesus Christ Writing Campaign as registered Democrats. And we know without a shadow of a doubt, if we don't go in on election night or election day, write in Jesus Christ, who's at the bottom of the ballot, which is a writing candidate, or write him in on our mail-in ballot, we know that they will stop the election. And all the individuals that did not vote, they're going to cast their votes for Joseph Robinette Biden once again, if you don't vote, and then he will break his own record of 80 million voters, which was literally a lie. And if you ask somebody there was cheating in the election, what would they say? There's no evidence of widespread cheating. And if Donald Trump says that they cheated, look, he got cases, because the democracy is the devil. And the devil's mission is to steal, kill, and destroy. And I'm going to say this again. The devil's mission is to steal, kill, and destroy. So if you are a Democrat, I dare you to say to a Democrat, I'm not voting for Joseph Biden, and watch what they do to you. They're going to steal your character, steal your page, block you. Okay, they're going to destroy your character, which I was trying to say, destroy your content, flag your content, and try to kill you. And we know this. Why did they murder and assassinate Dr. King? Why did they murder and assassinate Malcolm X? Because they was coming together. Okay, and think about all the political prisoners. Think about all the people who got murdered and killed just because they were trying to be free in this nation. This is a nation where we supposed to be free in this nation, but democracy is the catalyst, because democracy don't want freedom. Democracy gets paid off poverty. Democracy gets paid off of crime. Democracy gets paid off of mayhem. Democracy gets paid off rioting and all of this. Look at all the money that was exchanged in the since the 2020s when it comes to riots and the George Floyd and all this. That's democracy. Steal the money. And then when you talk about the people, they don't want us to be free to have these conversations. And when I say free to have these conversations, because when we talk about the money, it's simple. There's only 331.9 million. So let's go ahead and say 332 million in America. Why are they trying to send 95.5 billion to Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan? Think about that. In a union, in a perfect union, $332 million to all American citizens, black, white, Chinese, Mexican, or indifferent. You get $1 million, and you can still send 95 billion to Ukraine. Think about that. There's only 7.8 billion people worldwide, and you want to send 95 billion to war. This is the craziest thing ever. And that's democracy. But what about the Constitution? We the people. And they told us, our forefathers and the framers told us, when we start studying that Constitution, we will really understand that as one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And it's not about, the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the Supreme Court or in Congress. It's not about that. The Constitution says we the people. What we the people agree on, what we the people want, we are supposed to have these conversations, work with our politicians to draw up the legislation, and they're supposed to give that to the sitting president, and he just signs it into law without no debate, without no arguing, without none of that, because we are a fake parliament, okay? Our United States government should be, I'm not going to say dismantled, but it needs to be under review because the people have the power based on the Constitution, but we don't utilize our powers because the devil is in control of this system, and it's under the term democracy, ruled by the devil. Crat, the suffix crat and crassy means to rule or rule by. The word demo means demon, diablo, or devil. And if you don't believe me, go to a Spanish person and say, what does demo mean? Oh, demonio, devil. Think about that. So democracy is the catalyst. Democracy needs to go. I'm not saying the Democratic Party, but it's weird that democracy and Democrat means the same thing. Think about it. And it's crazy how you have all these black faces in the Democratic Party when it's the party of slavery. So literally Massa found a way to put his slave out front so the slave could go to the plantations and talk and lobby to the other slaves to vote for Massa, not knowing that Massa is a representation of America's original sin, and that's slavery and white supremacy. Think about that. And I know whites are upset about it because whites are getting a bad rap. When you look at a Democrat, they sit back and say, these old MAGA Republicans, these old insurrectionists. I'm sitting back like, man, it sounds like y'all calling them maggots. And then Joe Biden will go on record and call them Neanderthals. Like, that means that they're not human because he has black writers. Joseph Robinette Biden's campaign strategist is a gay black man. Gay black men don't even love themselves, okay? They hate their heterosexual brothers. They hate their communities, and they're living so much of a lie that they'll be willing to partner up with the devil because that's the only one that will give them an opportunity. Number two, the white liberal woman. She's the most dangerous threat to the American people because white liberals, think about it, women are in the wrong place. They supposed to be over there with Trump now. Why are they over here? Because they have been outcast and ostracized, and now they got money problems. They're broke. They're marrying blacks and having black babies. So now that they think that they're superior, because at the end of the day, if a white liberal woman get into it with a sister, what's she gonna say? Because a lot of our sisters got it going on, got good jobs, driving these high-end vehicles, but that white woman will tell their sisters, and they do it on a daily basis, you still a nigga, you still a nigga. But you supporting and voting Democratic with that person that's gonna call you a nigga. Come on, man. Think about that. See, the black man understands because either we stay on the plantation and get lynched by Massa, or we be walking around clown with that thing on our neck because we're a threat. So we've been gone. So our silence is golden, but the prodigal sons is coming home. So now, like the Science of Willie Lynch says, once we get the woman, she will be frozen in her independence. She'll be willing to do anything. Look at Letitia James, the district attorney up there in New York. Look at Fonnie Willis, the district attorney in Fulton County. Think about that. Or Letitia James, the attorney general, and then the Fonnie Willis down there with the case, which Nathan Wade had to, leave the case. But think about that. They put the woman out there in front because if you get a black man out there, the only reason Nathan Wade got on the case because he was smashing and he took the bread, but a black man got morals. A brother ain't finna do that. Like, nah, I walk away from that because our morals, think about, the In the 60s, the black nuclear family were men of valor. We were wearing suits. We were polished. We were trying our best to be the best of the best. And now they're basically saying, it's watered down. You could be any way you want to be. But this democracy, man, that's the catalyst. That's the catalyst, man. So we're going to continue to have these conversations. So in one of the comments last on the number one episode of the reparations debate conversation, basically said who qualifies for it. Anybody, for number one, that is a black American citizen whose grandparents was born here in this country clearly qualifies. Number one, we'll find the second tier group of people, because if your grandparents was here, your great grandparents was here, your great grandparents was either a slave or a sharecropper, and your great grandparents clearly were slaves in this country, because slavery didn't end to 1865. And a lot of our great grandparents was born in the 1860s, 1870s, things like that. So just do the research. But we got to really understand what's going on. There's no way we can continue on this slippery slope. There's no way we can continue on this slippery slope. So I got some comments in there. The word democracy comes from the Greek word, hey, come on now. That's what I'm talking about. God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. Thank you for that, brother. Thank you for that. Barber too. Okay. Let me see here. In the Spanish word, Democratic Party rules that LBJ did the Civil Rights Acts for the wing and left and went to the Republican Party. Man, like I said, it's like my child is walking. I'm not saying you're my child, but I'm saying I've been on this mission for a very long time. I've been wanting to have educated conversation with people without the naysayers and the opposition, because they usually get an opportunity just to go at us. So what I'm saying is, man, listen, God's this is good. So this is good. So what I'm saying is, man, let me see here. Stop talking about, you start listening. Exactly. I appreciate you, man. So listen, man. I appreciate you. So listen, we're going to continue to have these conversations. This is number 2. And believe me, I've been working in the back office. We're going to, make this thing a little bigger. I'll be able to, share videos, share my screen and have these conversations, because, these things, we have to talk about, and we have to deliver ourselves from democracy as a whole. There's no way we can continue on this slippery slope, and democracy is the devil. So when you have an elected official who happens to be a Democrat and say this is a threat to our democracy, yes, it's a threat to demonic rule. Absolutely. Because when Joe Biden said during his State of the Union address, he stated out of his mouth that America hasn't been so divided since the Civil War. And what was the Civil War about? The Union wanted to end slavery. The Democrats, Dixiecratic, Confederates wanted to preserve slavery, just like that. And with the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, they put that criminalization clause that slavery did not end. Slavery did not end, because crime, if you commit a crime, unless criminalized, you go back in there and you do involuntary servitude, because California prisoners just got a raise. So they went from 8 cents to 38 cents. Think about that. That's slavery. And then you have all these major corporations that's profiting off of prison labor. And we got a lot of nerve to talk about sweatshops and other foreign nations. But what about, the prisons? Those could be jobs, wage earning jobs in the community that, the migrants could be working on getting minimum wage. So that's the crazy thing. So God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. And before I go out, I got to give you the math on all of this. So if you stuck around this long, I got to give you the math. In the state of California, in which I'm from, LA area, the lotto is over 800 million right now. In the state of California, there's only 39 million Californians. That's enough money to put $1 million in every Californian's bank account, and that will be on the state level. Federal level, there's only 331 million or 332 million people in the United States. But the president of the United States wants Congress to sign a bill to send $95 billion out of this country to Israel, to commit genocide on the Palestinians and to kill brown people, and Ukraine, who's going to lose the war to Russia, and to Taiwan. And I don't know what's going on in Taiwan. So that's crazy. So the money's there. Like, we just got to have these conversations, these open discussions. So the platform is growing. If you didn't, go ahead and like and subscribe, share. I'm about to jump off, but you could go ahead and put your comments in. When I get to them, I'll answer them. And if you want to have some topics, some discussions, or if you want me to basically do a video about something that you're interested in, let me know. In this perfect union, we both got to agree on it, and we'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and share. But man, I appreciate y'all, man. My man Barber too, man. This brother here, hey, he's on it. And like I said, I don't know if you black, but a brother is a brother, because black is black, Latin, Asian, Caucasian, kinfolk. It's all one race, the human race. And we got to do this. So democracy will be on the ballot in 2024 on Super Tuesday, November 5th. And democracy is literally the devil. So God is giving us an opportunity. God gives us a way of escape. And he has allowed these two same individuals on the ballot. Because when they say the lesser of the two evils, so you got to make a decision. And we're not voting for democracy, but they're both the same. Lucifer and Satan. Which one is the lesser of the two? Evil is evil. So with that being said, hey, thanks for tuning in to the Reparations debate number 2 on the Better Black America TV Conversations. This is your man, Bushan Glover, signing out. Peace out.